Okay, this is video number 3, and I'll talk about the change in how I put the igniter in the engine based on the new potassium nitrate and hopefully the easier lighting engine. Okay, we're going to talk about putting the igniter in differently than with the fuse. So, got these two engines sitting here. That one's going to be flown in the rocket, and one's a 4-inch test to see how it is. That's a 4 1/4 inch, and the other one is a 4-inch, just big enough I can see what's going on. So what I've done there, what you see is some tape up at the top of it, and that was going to become the stop for the igniter when it's inserted from the bottom. Just an easy way to find the very top of the fuel cell. And this red cap here, we're going to take it off, not use it. It's called a flame director is what it's called. And so they will be inserted from the bottom instead of from the top like I did the last video. Those engines were really hard to light, and these should light quickly. The one that I tested was very easy to light. So we got that igniter right up at the very top of the fuel core, and I'm going to bend the wire over so I kind of mark it where it goes. I'm going to put a mark on it, and that igniter will then be married to that engine. And so when it's ready to fly or test, the igniter will be inserted and over to put the bend, and it'll be right in the proper location. But I'm also going to put the tape back on the top of the core so that it will have a little stop there. And I'm doing the same for the 4.25-inch engine. The one thing I did not do is I did not measure the engine casing empty. So I'm going to have to do it in reverse, and you'll see what I'm doing here. I'm going to measure the weight of the engine before it's fired, and then of course I'll have the empty weight afterwards, and it's just the reverse procedure, the reverse math to get the amount of fuel that was in it. And the amount of fuel is kind of important in the spreadsheet, and it's also the entire weight of the thing is important in the .eng file for when you're doing flight simulations. And that's a complete engine. I'll leave that end cap on there. Like I said, I get these end caps from Amazon, and they are, I like them better because they're flatter. They got a little bow to them, but nothing like the big hump on the other ones. And also one thing that's missing that I like is the, I suppose it's put on there for a wrench. It's like a ridge. It runs from the top to the bottom of it on one side, and that creates problems when you're trying to stick it in the rings to hold the engines. It's not something you can't overcome, but it's easier if it's not there, and I don't have to grind it off to remove it. So that there weighs 321 grams full, and that's the 4 1/4 inch. Now I'm taking the red cap off, and without the red cap it will fit through the 13/64 throat. Run it just to the very top, bend it over, and I'll pull it out and mark it. And this one, since I got two at one time, I'm going to put a double mark on this one so I can tell which igniter goes with what. They will be taped to the engine, but you know how things change between now and whenever it's flown. So, and I'll mark the engine with two marks, so it reminds me that that's the igniter that goes with it. Sure, where the stop is. You know, it's going to come up and hit the cap at some point. How far do I come back? I may come back too far, I may not come back far enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of tape, and trust me, this tape will be destroyed in a matter of microseconds from the ignition. And all that's going to do is tell me if I have to insert an unmarked thing, it's going to tell me where to stop pushing there. George, he pushes and then he pulls back. He knows how far it is to the cap. On these caps, I'm not sure how far it is. And I'm not really sure how to determine that accurately. Maybe it's more of a feel type thing. But I mean, this, you can take the igniter and push this piece of tape off, but if you stop when you feel resistance, you know you're right at where you need to be. So I'm going to stop here and glue these two on, and then I'm going to come back and talk about the eBay on this 3-inch rocket that I'm building. That'll probably be I install the flight computer into a midsection eBay instead of a nose cone. Nose cone works great for single deploy, but we have a bunch of 45, 50-foot trees around the perimeter where I fly here at home, and I can't do a real high launch with a single deploy because it'll just drift away into, guaranteed to wind up in the top of a tree somewhere. So what I do is I do dual deploy, which the rocket comes up, its apogee. When it turns over and starts back down, I don't even use a parachute on the rear end. It's more of a rear end ejection. If the rocket stays in the same form it was flown in and turns around and starts back down and waits till it gets to deployment altitude, it'll be at all, you know, terminal velocity. This is not a good thing. You could rip the parachute out of the rocket. So what I do is I kick the butt end off of the rocket, and that becomes, it makes the rocket so aerodynamically ugly that it slows down, and it's just, you know, it's falling pretty fast, but it's not anything like a nose down straight in dive. And then when it gets down to altitude, the front end pops off and brings out the main parachute. And I do that normally around 175 to 200 feet. Okay, that's all I got to say about it now. I'll talk more about it when I put it in there. Thank y'all.